All right, making this video, something I haven't showed before. These are some of my very first cars and my very first attempts at speed runs and bashing. So, this one right here, this is my first Slash that I ever owned. It's a Slash LCG 4x4 Ultimate. I bought this thing and had a blast with it, and I bashed with this car for over a year. The body is, I paint it myself. Everything on this car. I learned a lot about RCs, a lot about Traxxas on this car. So let me pop the top and I'll show you what I'm talking about. As you see, got the screw down Proline body mounts. The body I painted and masked myself. It's not perfect, but I did it myself. And as you can see, the lines aren't very straight, you know, but I did the whole car myself. I was very proud of this. And, you know, I did bash with the body. As you can see, there's scrapes and scratches on it. So this is probably my 8th body on this RC. Let me show you what's going on under the hood. So, as you can see, it's not really stock at all. Proline shocks, the differentials have been swapped out, all metal gears in there, the differential housings are aluminum, Proline body mounts. Up here, this used to have onboard audio when I got this thing. And I took the receiver from down here because I put such a big motor in it. I had to move the ESC back. Mamba Monster X. I run this thing on 6S. It's a 2200 kV capsule motor in there. Or I'm sorry, this isn't the 2200. This one is a 1800 castle motor, and I run this on 6S. Most of the time on 4S, but I do run it on 6S. They say the motor's not rated for 6S, but I run it that way anyway. This is rated for 6S. So here's my slipper clutch. It's all custom. This has all been cut out, custom. Steering servo, as you see, Savox Gold. It's the GTI, very fast servo. Axles on it, MIPs, and I have shrink tubing over them because the pins fall out. They get loose and fall out, so the trick is you shrink tube them. So I shrink tube the whole thing, and then I cut a section out so that both sides have shrink tubing on it. So hubs, everything are aluminum, and yes, I run aluminum arms on it. I had Proline on them and kept breaking them, and I went to these aluminum arms and I bash with them and don't have any problems. Look at this one. My shrink tubing, didn't realize shrink tubing sliding off already. So I'll have to get that fixed, because if not, those pins will fall out. And these MIPs are very expensive, and I've lost so many pins to these things that I started doing this, started using red Loctite, and was still having problems. What you do is you catch this little pin right here starting to poke through on shrink tubing that I stick on here. So when you catch it poking through, you know to pull them back apart and tighten everything down. So, Yaw Racing fans, Mod 1 gearing, and yes, I bash with Mod 1 gearing. Proline shocks in the rear. MIPs in the rear. I run the stock, or this is a RPM rear bumper and RPM front bumper. Actually, this is the stock front bumper. So, running the stock front bumper on this because of the support on it, and it gets hammered. I did have a chassis protector on it from Traxxas, but most of it started peeling up, so I ripped it off, and the only thing left is the Traxxas symbols. But this RC is run hard. I have the shock protectors on this. So everything on this RC is been modified. And this thing is a beast. It truly is. I run this off my Futaba. I did add a rear sway bar to it, but I did not add a front sway bar, just for handling and bashing with this thing. This thing is literally a rocket ship. So I love this 4x4 to death. This one, I had a TP motor in this one and bashed it for a long time. But I ended up damaging the TP motor. It got a big dent in it. So I threw the castle in it, that 1800 I had lying around. I was truly impressed with it, and I left it that way. Here's my other one. This one was my first high center of gravity two-wheel drive slash. I don't think there's one thing left on this RC that is Traxxas anymore. Honestly, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I wanted to convert it to low center of gravity. So, Integi, and hopefully I'm saying it right, offered this low center of gravity chassis that was aluminum and metal. And I was like, well, that's strong. That should be pretty cool. So I went ahead and ordered that. Then I ordered long travel aluminum arms. I ordered their shock towers. I ordered their bumpers, front and rear. I ordered big bore 8th scale shocks. Went ahead and ordered their slipper clutch. And I think this is 48 tooth. I run this, as you see, on 6S Mamba Monster. My ESC, or my receiver, is under there. And then antenna is taped up, and that's what this tape is. It's holding the antenna up for a better signal. So I tape that up at the top, XT90s, and I run this on a single battery 6S. This is a Signature Series Savox steering servo. This was like a $200 steering servo that I put into this thing. Got the carbon fiber body mounts. Everything on this thing is metal or aluminum. I'm running some steel drive shafts. This was a lot of work getting this to work with the extended arms, because I bought this thing, it had standard arms, and I went ahead and put extended arms on it to stabilize the vehicle. Yaw Racing fan and a castle. I got the aluminum gearbox with the heat sinks, all metal gears inside there. First time I ever built a transmission case was this one. I did all this work myself. All my on and off switches mounted here. And as you see, this thing is just a beast. It truly is. So, I put this thing together, and when I was done building this, this was a 2-wheel drive high center of gravity slash. When I was done building this, I actually had enough parts left over, because it was all of them, that I ended up putting that 2-wheel drive slash all back together when I ripped it all apart. Because I ripped it all apart and used the front and rear stuff off of it, and then started changing everything out slowly, until this thing was completely a car made from the ground up. So that's my infamous 2-wheel drive. I call it my Aluma Beast is what I call this, because it has so much aluminum on it, and this thing is just wicked. You know, it's scary fast, especially on 6S. 4S is more manageable, but I love to run everything on 6S. I was on a 6S kick for a long time, and I would only run all my 10 scales on 6S. Which brings me over to my Rustler. I don't know if you guys recognize this body, but this Rustler is the base model Rustler. This is a $200 Rustler. It came with bushings, not bearings, bushings. This runs 120 miles an hour. I took this, bought it, went ahead and changed out the shocks, put the aluminum up here, added weight to the front of the car. These are weight plates. I have 6 of them that I can stack up. Got the reservoir shocks on it. I've lowered everything down. I've got the lowering mod inside these with fuel tubing to get the stance down. These are, I forget what control arms these were. No, these are the stock control arms. So I ran stock control arms front and back. I did change out these because they were the solid rods like this in the rear, but I couldn't get my alignment correct on the front, so I went ahead and changed these out with ones I took off my 4x4 slash right there. So yeah, recognize this? This is a gyro. Something I added to stabilize the car. And Mamba Monster X, or Mamba X, I should say. Yaw Racing fan, Mod 1 gearing. This is a Proline transmission. It's not aluminum. It's half plastic, all metal on the inside with a metal plate. And then, of course, my boys and their front and rear bumpers. T-Bone Racing front and rear bumpers, and I run 8th scale wheels on this. You can see the flat spots in them from when it gets out of control. It'll slide sideways and tear these things up. So I get probably about 10 runs out of them before I actually have to change these wheels out. I run the cheap China axles in this. I think these things were 20 bucks. So this whole build, I was less than, I want to say, $600 into this whole build with this TP Power 2200 kV motor. And the size of this motor on this little RC, I actually had to change the spring rate on the right because the motor was adding so much weight. But look at the size of that TP power in there on this Rustler. And I ran this TP power, the same motor, in my Basher until I actually damaged it over there. I actually think I damaged it here on this speed car. It crashed and I dented it, and I stole this one out of my Basher and put the Castle in the Basher because I was trying to hit that 130 mile an hour speed run. So that's where this one came from, and I never replaced it in the Basher. I just left the Castle in there because it's been running well. But this is my Rustler, my base model Rustler, which brings me over to this thing. This thing, I beat the heck out of this. This is a Summit. Let me get these clips off. One thing I don't like are these clips. That's why I normally switch them all out to those screw-on type. But this, I did a whole Kawasaki theme on this thing. And this thing got lights in it. I drilled the holes. I painted this body. I rebuilt this whole Summit. And this Summit runs on, what do you see? 2200 kV TP power with a max 8 system in this one. So I run this thing on 6S with the max 8, and this thing is truly a beast. I've never changed these steering servos, and this RC is over 10 years old. These are the Proline Racing trenchers, and the bead locks, I actually drilled them because these are the factory bead locks. I drilled these rims and screwed these bead locks into the trenchers, and then I switched the hubs, everything over to green. And I truly beat on this RC. I bashed the heck out of this thing. I do leave the plastic spur here because I have stripped it. So, and slipper clutch all the way tightened down. So this thing is sick. I have some running videos of this thing, and it's truly a beast out there. And this is a Basher running TP power. Everybody recognizes this one. This is Phil Jolly's 150 mile an hour slash 4x4. I had been following Phil Jolly for a while there, and really wanting to make a slash go 150 miles an hour, and this was my attempt at building a car after watching video after video after video of him doing it, and a bunch of other speed guys making some passes with the Rustlers and all that other stuff. I built this thing. I painted the body myself. As you see, I only have one body mount in the front, 2 in the back, big foam bumper. So I've reinforced the body shell. This body shell is really thick, and I run this on the big Castle motor. Mod 1 gearing, custom mount. This thing is truly a beast. And I had a TP power in this, but the TP power that was originally in this is now in my Limitless. But the motor on this thing is truly huge. This is a huge Castle on this thing. And Mod 1 gearing on this. This is 3434. And the fastest I got this up to, 137 miles an hour. And I couldn't figure out why. You know, I've got, I ended up running these steel axles because I had MIPs in here, but they were way too heavy. Redid the diffs. I mean, just all kinds of stuff with this thing. You know, this has the Monster 2 in it. And, you know, 137 miles an hour, you know. But he's running, you know, 150, 160 I'm seeing out of this guy. So I'm watching a video one day and he does a run with this car. It does 150 miles an hour even. And he had to let out, of course, top of the run, started getting loose on the rear. And drives it back in old Phil Jolly fashion and starts to say he's going to put this one up for sale. So I immediately messaged him and had him ship it out to me. Paid for it, was hoping that he was an honest guy, and he shipped it out to me. That's how I knew that was a guy I wanted to do business with. So a very honest guy. It came. I still haven't done anything with it. Tire was chewing up and this axle was broken. He had no idea it had broken that run. So this is all his work. I've never run this car. Phil put this whole car together. This is all his stuff. And I started looking at it, and it's nothing like my Slash. You know, even when it comes down to the rear hubs, you see how thick that is? It's a factory one. They're real thin. You know, he runs these beefy plastic ones with these big bearings. You know, the size, here's his, what is this, the 4070? And this one actually has a big dent in the motor. He had crashed this thing at one point and the motor got dented, but it hasn't really affected the RC. So he went with it. As you see, he's glued this for wires coming out there and there. XLX in it. Running a stock Traxxas drive shaft. So, you know, you look at the RC and he's running front sway bars. These look familiar. These shocks. Yeah, they look familiar. They come off of a Summit. You know, he's added this weight here, zip tied it to the front. You know, running Mod 1 gear, 3434, and his cat pack system. So, yeah, here's look at these front tires. Look how skinny they are. See how wide that is? Look how skinny that is. He literally shaves the rim and tire down to get the front one skinny. I thought that was something real unique. See how fat that is? How skinny that is. These are actually cut down BSR foams. So pretty cool. So I keep that as a memento. It didn't come with electronics, so I threw a Futaba receiver in it, made sure everything worked, fixed the axle that was broken, and then left the RC alone. Have not touched it, have not done a speed run with it. The last pass this thing did, Phil did, and went 150 miles an hour. And I actually asked him to sign it for me. Top Speed RC, Phil Jolly. So he signed it for me and shipped it out. I tell you how much I paid for it, but you guys wouldn't believe me. He might have the video still up, but, you know, I'm sure he's taken it down by now. But I have a copy of the video and this thing doing a 150 mile an hour speed run. So that's my story of some cars you guys have never seen in my collection. And this was one of the first go-arounds to get me out there and doing RC again. So about 2 years ago, I drug out all my old RCs and started doing it again. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of my slashes and my old Traxxas stuff, because Traxxas was a big part of my life, and this 1/10 scale stuff here is something I'll never get rid of, something I'm very proud of, and I've built all of this stuff myself, except for Phil Card over there, of course. I just added that because it's a 150-mile-an-hour car. Who doesn't want to see a 150-mile-an-hour car? But thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one. Hope you enjoyed the video.